Welcome friends, to the newest edition of Seahawkers What If, the most unique Seahawks preview show in the multiverse. I am your host, Clinton Bonner. It is the day after Christmas, and we have a couple of fine gentlemen with us. And I'll start right away with Brandon. Brandon's got the What If championship hat on, throwing it in my face. Brandon, there's a SpongeBob song that says, "Hey, it's Christmas time. Don't be a jerk." And here you are rubbing it in my face with the What If championship hat on. I still love you though, Brandon. Merry Christmas. How are you, bud?
Well, the good thing is it's no longer Christmas. It's now Boxing Day. There's no song about being a jerk on Boxing Day. So if you like this, just wait.
I love that. There's probably a South Park episode where it's like, be a tremendous jerk on Boxing Day, right? Blame Canada, the whole thing already. Mr. Phil, I hope that your Christmas with your family, it was absolutely wonderful. And of course, for those that, remember, hey, the first day of Christmas is December 25th. We have 12 days of Christmas. So Phil,
all the way to Epiphany, right?
There you go. How is day number 2 of your Christmas going, bud?
I don't know. I'm the only one up here at the massive place where my wife grew up. There's people sleeping in guest rooms around the house, and it's just me. Even though it's 8 a.m, I think everybody's conked out pretty good. I expect to hear kids running around soon. I'm in my father-in-law's den, so we're sound, different location. Can still celebrate Brandon's second year in a row winning the What If prediction competition, but it's just different. It's different not being at home. I don't have access to a lot of things I normally do, but it's a nice getaway here in the area of Linwood, Washington.
Well, I think everybody very much appreciates. I know that I do. I think Brandon does. I think our listeners and viewers and flockers will appreciate too that, hey, we're still doing this, even though it is Christmas week, and it might be slightly different, but that's okay. And guys, we have a football game tonight.
Yes.
So which is just a couple of hours, basically 12 hours from when we're recording this. Our Seahawks will be playing the Chicago Bears in Chicago. Our last road game, potentially. Our last road game, certainly of the regular season. We've been a very good road football team, and The Bears have been a very bad football team. So this will be interesting. We're going to go through it all. Brandon, before we do hop into it, we got a couple of days left in this calendar year. What should people be out there doing to help us finish strong, Brandon?
Oh, yes. Well, we want to hit 5,000 subscribers out on YouTube. You can help make it happen going to youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. And help us get there. It would be a New Year's miracle. I'm not going to say Christmas miracle because it's already passed, but let's get there by the new year. We could do it.
Yes, if we get to 5,000 subs, we could have a baby of the year celebration right at 5,000 as the ball drops in Times Square. Baby of the year. Why not little Bart Harley Jarvis for the win? Phil, we are not going to be doing a previously with the Protector this week. When you look back at the last week's game, I think a lot of folks, for better and for worse, have caught a lot of Chicago Bears games this year. They were on TV a lot. Caleb Williams, the whole thing already. We, of course, are very good friends with EJ Snyder. Brandon just had him on the podcast to do a preview with EJ, and he's a huge Bears fan and a great football guy with the bootleg football team. Certainly check out their show as well. So we don't have a previously, but of course we're going to have a theme that you handcrafted right after the day of Christmas. So Phil, what is our theme as we take on these Chicago Bears?
Yes, they've lost 9 in a row, so that's the previously. Their DVOA is pretty bad. They're 25th overall, 25th on offense, 27th on defense. They just haven't played well against other NFL football teams. That's generally what the previously would tell you. But we are going to Chicago. Our team's going there. We're a good road team. And Chicago, I was trying to determine the theme, but them being the U.S. railroad capital, more major railroads sending to and from that city than any other place in America. The Hawks have lost a couple games as well. So here's the theme. What if the Hawks can get back on track in the railroad capital of America as they head to Chicago? Going on the road is a good place for us. It being the railroad place is a good place for us to get on track. So we just have 3 categories. We're going old school, no graphics. You guys don't get to choose. I tell you the questions. You answer the questions. There's no picking. The categories are train station, connections, and then this last one I crossed out like 3 times, and then I finally ended up with the engine that could. So the great little kid story, the little engine that could, is where end up. Clinton goes first, this being what was used to be the final game of the year, the 16th game, but Brandon gets to go an extra time now that we have 17 games. Anyway, Clinton, you go first, train station. For our Hawks defense to keep the Bears stuck at the train station, we need to shut down their playmakers because they have some potential playmakers. It hasn't been realized that much, but the playmakers, what if you share your concerns about the running back Swift or maybe the receiver set of Moore, Allen, and Odunze? So much promise there hasn't been realized. What are your concerns about any of those players, Clinton?
Okay, let's start. I'll start with the wide receiving trio that is good. It's just maybe some trends the last 3-4 weeks of the season that Keenan Allen has kind of came back alive. It's a one of those, reports of his demise have been greatly exaggerated type moments there. He's been resurrected in many ways the last 4 to 5 weeks of this football season. Now, the thing is, I think most people would tell you, probably Bears fans too, is like, yeah, Keenan Allen's playing good football and Caleb is finding him. He's getting, like last couple of weeks, like 13 targets, 14 targets, stuff like that. So large targets for Keenan Allen. But if you peel it back a layer, beyond that or before that, it's a little bit like maybe it's just relevant for fantasy football, which is not what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And the reason being is the Bears are down early often. So I think Keenan Allen's still a very good football player. And I think he's going to get the volume he gets. Adam, if Adam were on, he'd be digging into me right now. I'd be like, why don't you talk about DJ Moore? He'd been talking about DJ Moore for years. I think DJ Moore is a very good NFL wide receiver. But again, I think he's found himself in an underused role. And you talk about the rookie, Odunze, who's been a little hit and miss this year. I think Bears fans would be like, there's pockets. I think Odunze, to me, would be like, maybe we view Byron Murphy's rookie season as actually quite successful, but an external person would be like, up and down, hit and miss. I think a Bears fan would look at Odunze and say he's done some nice things consistently, but you're not watching it as closely. With all that, I think it actually comes down to the Bears have been one of the worst teams, if not the worst team, to start football games offensively. Now, we've been poor the last few weeks, specifically giving up early points. So will that be something? So at least that's something to watch, Phil, and gravitate towards. Is like first series or two, we've been poor, and the Bears have been poor. Is it a something's got to give, or they just kind of cancel each other out, and it's a 3-0 football game after one quarter of play? I don't know. I think both are in play, Phil.
Well, we've been playing some really good teams with good coordinators and good O-lines. So that will also change this week. We'll see if that's the competition is a big factor, I'm sure.
That is true.
Brandon, do you want to take us to Mr. Swift since he covered the trio of receivers? Any concerns about the run game or Swift at all?
I do. There are some concerns with the run game because, gosh, I look back at the Bears had a couple really solid running games, and it was when they've been able to get Swift and also Caleb Williams involved. Go back to they nearly beat the Green Bay Packers. They had a stretch where they're nearly beat each one of their division rivals. They were within 1 to 3 points every single game. It was a 20-19 game against the Packers. And it was a game that they probably should have won against the Commanders that they lost on a Hail Mary where they put up
probably. Yeah.
I mean, you have to say probably because they ultimately did lose. So they probably shouldn't have, but they did.
Right.
And they had 200 rushing yards in that game. And a big part of that was DeAndre Swift. A big part of that was Caleb Williams. So they have this, they have the ability to also rush with Roschon Johnson. So he kind of mixes it in there too. But I would say that between Caleb and DeAndre Swift, those are the two that you have to worry about, and they have the ability to put up a lot of yards. So I think that with the Seahawks defense, we've seen that they can still be run on if they decide that, I don't know, on a winter day in Chicago that they're going to just start hammering the rock. I think that could end up making this game a little bit closer. And if our Seahawks aren't ready for it, then it's not going to be the pushover team that maybe we expected.
Yes, those are all possibilities we have to be concerned with. And I hate to say it as we go to the next question here, Brandon. The Bears' run defense, I love to say it and hate to say it, but they're 30th by DVOA, their run defense.
Yeah.
So we got to
that doesn't matter.
Here. So here comes the question, and find out if it matters. What if our Hawks can decide to get the ground game going? How do you expect K-Mac and Sharps to be deployed, if at all? Will they leave the train station against what is clearly and objectively not a good run defense? What's going to happen here with K-Mac and Sharps, Brandon?
I would say the way that you worded the question, it kind of leads me to think about the what if, it happens. And it almost makes me want to push back and say that I don't want to go there because I don't think it happens, because I think this Bears pass defense is also ranked very poorly.
It's better. It's 18th. Yeah,
it's slightly better. So, but it's still bottom half of the league. Yeah. And I think that that is all that Ryan Grubb needs to say, well, we'll just throw it on this team because we have DK Metcalf and we have JSN and Tyler Lockett. So let's go against this Bears secondary instead of choosing to run the football, which is a choice that we have very, very rarely made in this 2024 campaign.
All right, Clinton. And Brandon probably took what is the logical, just from everything we've seen this season, the logical route. We will talk about their 18th DVOA pass defense in a moment.
Okay.
Can't Grubb decide, hey, I know this team is bad? Or will he just say, they're in the NFC North, everybody runs good there, that's why their defense looks bad, they're actually not that bad, we really can't run against them, so why bother? Let's say he does deploy them, though. Let's say K-Mac and Sharps get some shots. How would you see them being deployed or having success against this team?
Right. I mean, my inner Adam wants to scream, can't but won't, right? Because he likes to say that quite a bit. But however, I also have seen enough games previous before the Packers game, where the Jets game, the second Cardinals game, where we were establishing balance. We were running at least more, not great. We were still tipping tendencies, as we've talked about, and we were still under center so few times with ineffective play action when we did it, which was very few times. So it's hard to argue against Brandon. Yeah. With that, one thing that was just like, when things work so well, you're like, okay, that works so well. Let's never do that again. I don't understand last week where the pulling, the pulling stuff went, whether that's center guard or guard tackle, right? Pulls. And with the motion going the other way, we were doing it quite successfully. Jalen Sundell comes in the game, and heck, he's pulling around the corner and blowing spots open for Charbonnet. We did it went out the window again for I don't know what reason, but it wasn't there. It was there versus the Jets. It was there versus Arizona. It was what was successful versus the Packers in the few bright spots we did have on the ground. And then against Minnesota, we just decided not to do it whatsoever. Now, against the Bears specifically, Montez Sweat is a good edge. He's a good player, period. But great. Give us some of those opportunities when Darrell Taylor's out on the edge, right? And I think Dexter might be back for this game, and he's a nice player. But this is not an extremely deep at all defensive line from the Bears, right? They're poor. They played way better first half of the year. They fire Eberflus. It all goes to where, and they're not a good defensive line. They can
Sweat's not a good run defender either. He's just a really good pass rusher.
Very, very solid pass defender. And I think, I think he's, I don't know. I think he's okay at defending the run. I just think it's the weaker of the two by far. And we know what Darrell Taylor is if he's in the game. Right. So, and he's
the ultimate of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's not forget too. They have a bunch of ex-Seahawks. They got Jacob Martin still on this team. Right. Which is interesting. So we might see him out there he's a good NFL player. But they even have, just to take it one step forward too, some of their linebacker play, Tremaine Edmonds was a tremendous player. They gave him all this money, and maybe it's just a syndrome of being on the Bears, but not having a very good season, as far as stats go. So all that being said, Phil, can we purposely run the ball to the outside on the edges against players that can be got, have proven that they can be got, and do something that we were getting very good at? Let's go back to that 4, 5, 6 times in the game. That would be delightful. I just don't know we will, because the patterns don't suggest that Grubb will run the football. But I'm hopeful, Phil, that we will indeed do that, man.
And that's what I think. The Bears are so bad on the edge. We've proven to have some good success with those cool plays that he can design on the edge. Why not just do some of that? I think it could look nice.
That's what we should do. But
yes. And the Bears have proven, if you're going to be a Bear, don't be a Grizzly, be a Cub this year. I was waiting for Clinton to say that. But Clinton, we're going to go to connections. Connections, the next section. Chicago's pass D has been just above league average, barely.
Mm-hmm.
There's 32 teams. They're 18th by DVOA. But here's something that's kind of an anomaly. I don't know if you guys saw this or talked about it. It's weird. They're awful against wide receiver 2. So by DVOA, they're third against the 1 and third against the 3. They are 31st against wide receiver 2. I haven't had time to drill down and see what that's all about, but what if you explain what that could mean for our wide receivers? I mean, even that's a topic for debate and question, our wide receiver 2, but they're so bad at it. I think that means when they describe that, it's the one who's getting the second most targets on a team, if I understand how DVOA does it right. So could DK have a huge game? What does this mean, Clinton?
Yeah, and the internal discussion is kind of what you have to have first of like, well, who's the one? Who's that true one? And from all the metrics, the first read rate, the amount of targets, JSN is the one. That's how that's it. Whether he is or not, right? I'm saying metrics wise. And again, I know Adam would yell at me, and Brandon, I know you guys have discussed it too, and others will yell in the YouTube channel comments, which is fine. So let's play it forward. I still think, even with the stats and all that stuff, DK still gets treated as the one very often. And that's the point that many make and say, well, that's JSN's taking advantage of that. DK is the one being bracketed. DK is the one where the safety rolls over to, et cetera, et cetera. He's the gravitational well where a linebacker gets sucked down and they can slip behind him. So I think we're kind of in this weird hybridish ground of we really can't define who our one is. So I'll go over to something a little bit different and say, I still think they're going to scheme up DK. Grubb will scheme DK to try and be the one, so we can get that what we've been getting, which is a lot of people on him. And then what becomes prevalent, and I think it actually matters inside locker rooms and stuff, is that JSN is 7 receptions away from tying Tyler Lockett's Seahawks record. He had 100 receptions in 2020 in 16 games, only a 16-game season at that point. I think it matters to them that they want to at least tie it, if not break it, and do it within 16 games. So you don't have that asterisk sitting there. So you don't got Tyler Lockett, busting your chops that, he did it in 16 games. So I think they're going to also look to manufacture some touches to JSN to get a second-year guy above that century mark. So that's a pretty healthy amount of receptions if he gets to 7 or 8, and he could tie or break the 16-game record. So I'll go there, Phil. I still think most teams treat DK as the one because of the threat that he is, which is a very interesting discussion all into itself.
It's also the kind of routes DK runs. Like, people don't talk about that, but the safety has rules. The routes that go up high and long, the safety brackets over the top and doesn't just let the corner try to carry a guy on the post routes. The types of routes JSN runs in general, you're not getting the safety help because of where he is. I don't think enough people are talking about that. When you just watch routes, you see safeties make choices if you just do that. And Grubb has DK running those deep ones all the time. Brandon, how do you think this might play out? They are so terrible against wide receiver 2 and so good against 1 and 3. What does that mean? What's going to happen in this game because of that?
Well, it means that it doesn't much matter who we think is the Seahawks number 1. It matters who the Bears think is the Seahawks 1, and that means whoever Tyreek Stevenson lines up next to is probably the one that they feel is the least amount to worry about, or the one that they're going to give safety help too. But part of the problem with the Bears here recently is that they have struggled a little bit with some of their safety play. And Kevin Byard, a very solid veteran safety, but he's struggled down the stretch. Jonathan Owens is the league leader in giving up touchdowns. And so when you talk about safeties, carrying over to give help to that corner running down the field, it's a little bit more like we saw with Julian Love this past
Love
week.
usually does. We wish he had done it. We
wish he had done it in the game against the Vikings, but sometimes you get beat by the number one receiver in the NFL, and that happens. But hopefully we can do a little bit of that to the Bears between Tyreek Stevenson. And, it's not like Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson are super good. They're good. They're better than Tyreek, but I think that's the one to look for is if you see Tyreek Stevenson lined up across from one of our receivers, maybe have your eyes go toward that area of the field instead and see if they attack number 29 on defense.
So you think that's what it is? They're putting their best corner on the one, and then the rest of their guys just can't hack it. Is that how the two is going off so much, Brandon?
I believe that's the case. I don't think it's just a magical because you attack the weak point. It's not that it just so some magical thing that has to do with the receiver and if they're one or two.
I don't think I've ever seen something like this to where every fantasy guy's like, whoever's the number 2 against the Bears, start them, put them in there. This is 16 games in. They're terrible against the 2. Have you seen that before, Clinton? I don't ever remember something like this.
I mean, maybe not as dramatic, right? It's to go from like third, that sandwich you talked about, right? Third best, basically worst, third best. That's just, it's showing a fault in the system, right? And Brandon mentioned Jalen Johnson. He's number 1, by the way. So it's always good to know the numbers when you're watching it on a live stream. Although we'll be on Prime, meaning tonight you could probably, if you have Prime, you could also watch the Prime Vision version, which is kind of cool. The all 22 with the
phenomenal,
the enhanced graphics, which is pretty neat. With that, it's always good to know the numbers too. But yeah, Brandon, when you were talking with EJ, I mean, Jalen Johnson is he's the kind of the clear one, right? Is there a large discrepancy from the Bears' perspective?
No, I think he's the clear one as far as corners go. Well, as far as all their defensive backs go,
Yeah. Okay. It's even though they've been on TV a lot, I haven't paid a lot of attention to the Bears. It's just been a tough team for me to want to get intimate with. Let's put it that way. It's like, because you get the Caleb Williams stuff like shoved down your throat every week. And what just keeps ringing in my head is, Brandon, when you and Adam covered the quarterbacks in the preseason stuff, and you're like, Caleb Williams just, doesn't take what's there, scrambles around like a madman, takes a bunch of sacks, doesn't get in rhythm, and plays hero ball the entire game. And every time I'm watching, I'm like, it's kind of what I see. I kind of see that over and over and over again. So
one thing that he doesn't do, though, well, we're talking about Caleb,
right?
In terms of interception rate, he's one of the better quarterbacks. So yeah, you can crush him for taking a lot of sacks.
Yeah,
he's not been throwing it to the other team. And when you look at what Geno's been doing this season, he's been throwing it to the other team. So that could end up being a little bit more of an equalizer, is the way that Caleb is able to take sacks versus turn it over.
Yeah.
Interesting. And with the Prime Vision that you mentioned, I mean, that is the way. My boys, I have teenage boys, they have never enjoyed or understood football more. And I mentioned this last year. This is why we have these big widescreen TVs. We can finally watch the whole football game and not just like the line of scrimmage and the quarterback until he throws it. You can see the routes develop. You can see how the corners are playing. You can see where the safeties come. You can actually enjoy all the strategy and the play of the 22 players. Finally, this is why we have these huge screens. When do we get to see the rest of the games this way and actually watch football and not just a couple of players? My boys' knowledge and love for watching the strategy of the game has doubled this year just by watching these games. So
I love it. I do want to ask. So it's when it's a Seahawks game, I'm always like, ooh, I kind of go back and forth. Any of the other Thursday night games, I go to Prime Vision. I'm like, I love it. And then when it's a Seahawks game, I don't know. I'm still kind of torn between the traditional and the not. But Brandon, have you dipped a toe in the Prime Vision, the all 22 enhanced?
Oh, I do. Yeah, especially when it's not the Seahawks. But when it is the Seahawks, I'll watch the traditional broadcast because that's the thing that everybody else generally is watching. And so then if there's anything that I feel like I might miss something that somebody else is going to see just as part of the traditional broadcast that I wouldn't get. And part of that is some of the close-ups and that sort of thing. So, I love the more all 22 view too. It's just that
I've been
not everybody enjoys it as much.
Since we've had big screens, this is what I've wanted. I don't care about the little dude that pops on and tells me some nerd stats. I mean, I'm kind of a nerd a little bit, but I don't care about that. I just want to see all the players. That was why I would go to Seahawks games, is to watch Earl Thomas. Like, I love being there with the fans, but to actually watch great safeties do their thing, you can't. The traditional broadcast, they don't even know who the great players are back there playing safety on the traditional broadcast until they do a big explosion. They're missing all the other plays. Yeah, I'm going to get distracted forever if we keep talking about this. So I gotta make myself stay on track here.
Well, the other part of that too is you can see receivers when they break open.
Yes.
And watching a traditional broadcast, you have when Gino throws the football, you're like, I don't know who it's going to.
Yeah. No, you're like, look at JSN, he's open right now. You can see that, like, as you're at the actual game.
I do want to. It's funny too. I do think another thing, and we'll get back on track, like you said, Phil. Another thing that happened this year that actually might move more people towards that, as silly as this sounds, was that Simpsons game. And I know people are like, what do you mean, dude? Well, they showed you all 22 of Bengals Cowboys, and you could just see it as clear as day. Like Jamar Chase is wide open on the break. So for those that maybe got a glimpse of it during the Simpsons, you're like, I don't know what this Prime Vision thing is. One of your choices, you got to like go press the down arrow. There's like Prime Vision. It's one of the three choices that go along with the broadcast. And it's really, really cool. It is something to at least check out and see if it's your cup of tea. And again, I think maybe some folks got exposed because of a cartoon, which is kind of fun. My gut says it's true.
I'm going to get on track here.
All right,
let's use our TVs properly one day for football. It's coming. But Brandon, what if our Hawks can keep Caleb? We've started talking about him from making any key connections in this game. Is there a key from keeping Caleb from really getting on track? I mean, he is such a spotty player. He hasn't destroyed his team with the turnovers, like you said. He does get sacked a lot. Can we just keep him from getting on track against the Seahawks? That's what we would like to see, Brandon.
I think it's going to be tough for him against if our secondary plays up to the level that we have come to expect. I think it's going to be tough for him because things aren't going to look open for him. And when that happens, I think he because he does have that ability to run, it kind of puts us into that same area that we end up facing with Kyler Murray, is that can we find a way to contain him inside the pocket? Now, Caleb is, I think, a more prolific scrambler than Kyler is, with him being as young as he is. With he does some things. The one thing I'll say about Caleb is that, yes, we were a little bit down on him through the draft process, but this guy puts some moves on players that make them look silly, and a lot of times he'll do, 2 or 3 times a game he'll make a play that you just you don't see out of other quarterbacks.
Young Russell Wilson stuff.
It's very much similar to what we were used to with Russell Wilson. So it's things like that I think if that starts to happen early on in this game, then I'm going to start to be concerned. But if it's more toward the end when they're in comeback mode and trying to make something happen, I'll be a little bit less concerned, and maybe I can enjoy just the athleticism a little bit more. But that's one of my main concerns, I guess, with Caleb Williams in this game.
How about you, Clinton? How can we keep him from getting on track? They've lost 9 in a row.
Yeah. They've done a nice job of detracking themselves. What I've liked the last couple of weeks, whether we won or lost, is that there was a bit of a lull in the middle of the year there, or towards the the clubhouse turn, if you will, with like Mafe and Hall was like, and some folks are out there chiming on Twitter. Oh, those guys kind of disappeared. I'm like, they didn't disappear. They're not getting home, so you think they disappeared, but they're still being disrupted. They're still playing good football, and Derek Hall is still having a very good sophomore season compared to where he was year one, where a lot of people just labeled him a bust. I didn't see that, by the way. I thought he had potential. He's got the right. He definitely has the right shape to just be the baddest guy out there, and strength. And the last couple of weeks against good football teams, we've seen a bit of a bounce back for Mafe and Hall. Like Hall last week, yes, he got the sack. He had one sack, but he had another sack taken away. And Mafe had a sack that was almost a strip sack, where he gets to Darnold, and Darnold does not see him. And if I look across who are they going against, and I look at like Darnell Wright, and I think it's Larry Borum, they're okay. They're okay. And when I watch the Bears, I consistently see dudes with a little combination of speed and power having their way, getting around those edges. And then, okay, Caleb is pretty wily, but he's wily when he sees it, which I know is like, well, duh. But I feel like there's times where he's sitting back in the pocket and he doesn't see it quite yet. So that's just one of the ways. Is can we see a little blindside hit? Can we just see one of those things where Caleb likes to hold on to the ball. He will let things develop. He won't take a check down. He'll like to wait for that deeper route to maybe come open. That could be very, very dangerous. And that's the way I'd like to see it kind of happen, Phil, is maybe another nice game for our edges, and we get them into a position where our third-year edge and our second-year edge finish really strong, and we feel really good no matter what happens to finish the year this year. We feel really strongly about our 1-2 combo at edge heading into 25.
All right, Clinton. And that kind of leads into what I'm going to make my final question. I'm going to cut one out. We're trying to keep it short because we got a game starting in, like about 8.5 hours. We want people time to be able to see this. We will move to the last section, Clinton, which is the engine that could. I mean, a difference-making story for, I think, a lot of boys and girls. Just keep going, chugging along, getting the next thing. Mike McDonald, I think, kind of trying to get good momentum, keep chugging. We're getting ready to play the Rams here. What if our Hawks can use this game to get back in sync in some areas where we're starting to slip a little bit, fix the penalties, develop some good momentum, get everyone on page? What are you looking to see that's not just a win, but it'll give you some hope in the Rams game and even going into the next season, Clinton? Some things you got to see here.
Yeah, I got one thing in particular that I think has come and gone throughout the year, and I can't quite put my finger on why. And no, it's not the run game, right? So, and our inability to commit to the run. One of the things when I think the offense is humming more, regardless if we're running the football, I'd still like to run the football more. We've talked about that a lot. Last game, Gino did an awesome job of taking what was available underneath, and the quick game was on point. Yeah. And it wasn't just to one dude. It wasn't just drop-offs to Kenny McIntosh or drop-offs to K9 or Sharps. It was 4 or 5 different receivers.
And they're supposed to be the toughest. Minnesota's supposed to be the toughest to get the quick game going against, right?
And they really, and they were able to use Minnesota's aggressiveness on defense to our advantage. And they got a lot of free yards, a ton of free yards. By the way, it evaporated or just was never there versus Green Bay. But the second Arizona game, we got a ton of it. And it was just, hey, Arizona's playing more zone. All right, maybe the 2 or 3 guys that are supposed to have the longer progressions, it's not there. We have enough time. Gino had enough time to get to his check down. And then, boom, he's hitting A.J. Barner or whoever, pick your Seahawk, doesn't matter. I think that's a sign of a very healthy offense in general. It's like if you're not going to run, which we have shown an inability to choose to run the football, then you have got to subsidize it with quick game that is de facto running the football, where you're getting free yards. I'd like to see that continue, Phil, because again, with the Rams back on a faster track, week 18, I think we can do that again. It's a way to really get consistency on offense when the thing that drives consistency in the NFL, running the football, is absent. So that's where I'd focus, man. I love free yards. And then it's a little bit of it's a bit of which players do better when they either have a little bit of space or when they just got to go due north and get the most out of it as possible. And there's some discrepancies. So just something fun to watch, like internally, as we see our players get some chances underneath.
Yeah, and Grubb was really moving that along in this last game until
Yeah.
the worst possible moment in that second to last drive in the very worst play of the year where he had nobody open in the quick game and Gino just got swallowed and killed the drive. I mean, all the stuff you're talking about was happening in that game until that key moment where we basically lost by giving up a terrible sack. And I think that was totally on the coordinator. But Brandon, how about you? Some things I think I can. We're getting some consistency. We're going to climb this mountain. We all have a mountain we want to get to the top of. What do you need to see to feel like we're in that mode?
I think on defense, they need to lock in earlier because we've seen too many weeks where they come out on the field and they're giving up quick touchdowns. And that could be in part due to the coordinator that they're going up against, but then they find a way to lock in and dial it in and shut down the opposing offenses. And by waiting to do that, though, they're putting this team at an offensive disadvantage because we see it taking the offense out of the run game, or maybe we just use that as an excuse. But the defense, the thing is with the little engine it could, it's saying, I think I can. Our defense, I know they can, and we just need to see it sooner. And if they can lock in and start holding teams and opposing offenses early on in games, I think it's going to change the way this team looks or the latter part of games. And against the Rams in a couple weeks, that we're going to need that to continue. So start it here against the Bears.
That's so huge, man. That my soccer team this year, that was the thing, was learning to use the same phrase we used, learn to lock in off the bat, make it hard from the beginning, be a tough team to play from the get-go. Well, that's all the questions that we have here. We only had a couple wishes dropped in. I didn't ask for them. It's a short week. It's a holiday week, but Amy, Design Pete's Beach House, gave us one anyway. We actually have an opening script. So her wish is for something different, that we would script an offense to start. And then Carly had one that I really like. The Cardinals beat the catfishing Rams. That is her wish. I think that is the most important wish that anybody could make, is for the Cardinals to win this week. So thank you for wishing for that. Oh, you got the watch party advertisement there on the screen for beating the Rams Saturday at 5 Hawk time this week. You don't want to miss listening and watching along with your Seahawker hosts as we cheer for some guys that we've always maybe wished we could cheer for, but we can't because they wear those nasty red and white colors. Now for your wishes, gentlemen. I didn't get to go back because I'm not in my office and see what happened to the wish. I just know that Brandon won the week because he correctly picked the Vikings to win. So I didn't get to go to what were the wishes? I could not remember. Do you guys remember?
I think mine was Kenny. No, I think mine was like Kenny Mack. Somebody, and then it wasn't him. So I was like, hey, make it K9. But he didn't.
K-Mac wish.
Yeah, he barely touched the ball. So
I think mine might have been like a Woolen interception or something.
Oh, okay, never mind. Maybe they didn't come true. We did a lot of good things on offense as far as scoring and moving the ball and such. But yes. Yep. Okay, so this week we start with Clinton. Your what if Superhawk against the Bears.
Yeah. Okay. My what if Superhawk. Let's see. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna stop wishing that we do the thing I really want us to do, and then I'll just go to the thing that I think we'll do more of. 40-something degrees in Chicago in late December. Very little wind predicted.
Oh.
Yeah. Beautiful, it's gonna be
weather.
I mean, all things considered, absolutely right for late December in Chicago. That's pretty darn good. It is called the Windy City after all, right? With that, let's just go with a Gino. Let's get the wish onto the Gino side, and that he has another 3 touchdown day. And I'm going to pair that. Let's get greedy. Why not? 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Let's have that pairing. We need that pairing, and it'd be really nice. Think of how good it would feel. If we can get to that, like, okay, Gino did the thing where he was super clean sheet the whole time, still was dynamic, still made the Gino throws, and We got 3 tutties from the man himself. Of course, it's got to pair up with what the Cardinals doing us a solid. But first things first, that's tonight. 3 touchdowns, no INTs from Geno.
Okay, so Carly already had the most important wish, Brandon. Clinton has a nice one for Geno to call it. I get a 3-touchdown, no INT game. Brandon, what's your wish?
I see that Clinton got greedy. I was just going to take Geno Smith 0 interceptions, but going 3 touchdowns as well. That is bold. Maybe mine isn't as bold, but it is for Leonard Williams on the defensive line to bring it home and get a sack. We've seen him get sacks against Kyler, and with the way that Caleb likes to hold on to the football, I think Leonard Williams getting a sack, he's going to be my what if Super Hawk.
That makes a ton of sense to me. I expect yours to come true, and I hope Clinton's comes true. How about your score predictions, Clinton?
Oh, I have no idea. I really don't. Usually I'm like locked in on what I think might happen. It's Thursday. They were just celebrating Christmas and they stayed home and they're traveling late. I don't know. I still think our offense is okay and we'll be good. It's a bad defense, man. Yeah. 31-20 Seahawks.
31-20 Seahawks. I love it. That sounds as good as any score. How about you, Brandon?
I'm going to go Seahawks 24, Chicago Bears 19. But it's just because of a late score that it's that close by the Bears.
Oh, okay. So I think we're doing the thing that you hope for, which is not start out poorly, kind of control the game, and then let Caleb do some magic hero ball, get it a pointless score toward the end. I could see that. I'm hoping for one of those no touchdown games with the defense. That's really what I want to see. That will make me very happy. A no touchdown game. I feel like our offense is going to do well in this game. I want to see our defense just crush these guys, just control them.
I do too. It's time. We need to have that controlling game and then we need to see the Cardinals get the win on Saturday. Yes. And then next week we can take down the stupid Rams and win the NFC West, Mr.
Yes. Phil. I would love to see that. Anything else, Clinton? Anything you got to add?
No, I'll say yes, it is on screen, youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast, and the watch party on Saturday. This is not, look, we love all of our flockers. And of course, what we're going to do also is for our members of the flock, we're going to put the StreamYard link into the Discord. So if you're a member of the flock, you'll have a chance to hop on live with us and, comment for a few minutes during the Rams Cardinals game as we cheer against the Rams and cheer for the Redbirds. So that's another perk. If you are a member, then we'll drop that in the Discord, but it is open to everybody. And I think it'd be really, really cool if we get the most amount of Seahawks fans in this watch party as humanly possible, right? So text it, send it to your buds, say, hey, this is what's happening. Let's raise the Hawkra together. And we need to will this one across the finish line, guys. We need the Redbirds to do us a solid. The Rams have been wobbly. They're not that freaking good. They're just not that good. We need Gannon and that team to come up and play with pride and get this W. We need week 18 to matter, Phil. I need week 18 to matter, Phil. I need it.
This is our chance to cheer for cancer conqueror James Conner. I've always wanted a chance. We've always had to cheer against him. An awesome guy, plays football the right way. And here we can do it. We can do it together. We can enjoy some James Conner crushing the Rams' hopes while giving our Hawks the chance to defeat them. But to do that, we first need to take care of our own business tonight against the Bears. And with that, gentlemen, what if we say,
go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Be a Grizzly. Beat the Cubbies.
And go Hawks. Let's